Now, to talk about the education in America, Cady, tell us about it.
Okay, Philip. Well, a study was done in 2006 reporting the number in dollars that was spent by public schools on education. Some argue that America often spends too much money on recreational activities such as sports and theater and not enough on their students and how they're learning and how they're progressing. Let's see how the amounts spent by the states rank up. The lowest amount, also known as the minimum, is Utah at $5,437. That's a tiny amount, especially in comparison to states like New York, which is the maximum of the data and spends $14,884. But what about the center and the average values? The median of the data, the center of all the values, is $8,581. The mean, or the average, is $9,223. If you split the data in half, the sides of the states that spend less than $9,223 are only spending $7,759 per child in their state. That's quartile 1. On the other side, if the states spending more than $9,223 are on average spending $10,586 per child. That's quartile 3. The standard deviation of the data, the average difference from the mean, is $2,075. This shows you the distance from the mean, and more or less the best way to describe this data isn't the standard deviation, just because the data is actually skewed to the right on the graph. So the interquartile range comes into play because that's what you use when the data is skewed. It's the most reliable explanation of the spread. The IQR is the median of the lower half of the values subtracted from the upper half of the values, or quartile 3 minus quartile 1. The IQR of this data is $2,827. So, Philip, what do you think this data suggests? How do you interpret it?
Well, I would think it's pretty accurate. It's just, I think one thing people don't take into consideration is that most people, when they're looking at this data, that they're not taking in that each state makes a different income, which is going to affect what they're spending on education, and it basically just affects what they're spending on recreation, or what they make a priority in their state. So if you really want to know the difference in the income wise of each state, that $9,447 is the difference between New York and Utah, which are on both sides of the spectrum. So showing that New York has a lot more money to make, or a lot more money to use on education.
Well, there you have it, folks.